So I just realized that we did that entire thing and the wrong microphone was plugged in. The microphone that was plugged in was sitting across the room. So I was talking into a microphone that was across the room on the couch. Could you hear me? Like, did it sound okay on your end? Or am I like way too quiet? Because I was literally doing that entire thing talking into a microphone that was all the way on the other side of the room.
Austin, nice to meet you, man.
Hey, good to see you. How are you? Of
Very good, very good. Even better now. This is awesome. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
course.
Hell yeah.
Love
So,
the artwork and the design of your podcast. Everything's really cool. The branding's really cool.
oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really, I do put a lot of time into that kind of stuff. It's what I really like to do.
Do all the artwork and everything?
Yeah,
Sick.
yeah. Thank you, thank you. So, just do a little quick introduction about you, and then we'll get started on some fun questions and have a good time.
Right on.
So Austin Archer, for those who may not know, is a content creator, podcaster, actor, musician, everything. You name it, you do it all. Your podcast is called People Pleaser. Are you in fact a people pleaser?
I believe so, but I
Yeah.
saw a tweet the other day that was like, "Oh, so you're a people pleaser? Name three people who are pleased with you." And I was like, "Oh, touche." Uh,
Yeah, I am. So there's one.
all right, that's fine. I think my mom and dad.
There you go.
So there we go.
So mom, dad, and Mike. Cool. Um, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff is at your pal _ Austin. If you want to check it out, and you get Austin's music at austinarchermusic.bandcamp.com, obviously. Great stuff on there. Now, not everything that you have is streaming, right? Like if you go to Apple or Spotify, a lot of your albums are only on Bandcamp. Is that right?
That's correct. So
Yeah.
I've released a whole bunch of albums of TikTok songs. So like I used to do these.
Yes.
I don't really do them anymore, but I used to do these like comedic parody songs on TikTok.
Yep.
And I released like I think 4 full albums of those songs, and they're like
Yeah.
16 or 17 tracks each. And so there's a whole bunch of music that's just on Bandcamp. And then also like Bandcamp's the only place that you can get the double vinyl for my album Beautiful Things, the deluxe edition. But a lot of my music is still on streaming.
I listen to that album all the time. It's a very good one.
Thank you.
So that was released 2020. The remaster was 2022. Or do we have anything new coming out anytime soon?
Oh God, it's so interesting. I think after the commercial failure of Beautiful Things, the deluxe edition, I got a little discouraged and I was like, I think I'm gonna be done releasing music for a while and maybe even just
No.
like focus on just content and stuff. Like I tried for a while there to really be known on the internet as both a content creator and like actor and a musician. And it to this day, it still really seems like anytime I post about my music, it just doesn't do very well. And so I sort of just stepped away from it. But then I don't know. I just decided that like my whole life I've been making music mostly for myself anyway, and just anyone who happens to come across it who likes it. And it I was always able to do it before without the goal of being financially successful at it or having it be like a professionally viable avenue for me. And I was always able to do it just because I enjoy doing it. So I've tried to just sort of like re-enter that space of like, I'm going to continue to write music and I'm going to continue to release music, but not with any kind of agenda or goal in mind, just because I enjoy doing it. And so now I'm working on I've been writing songs for a record for the last year, and I'm working with a friend who has always wanted to produce an album for me, and he's gonna produce those songs, and we're gonna start releasing some singles hopefully this year.
Awesome.
And then also I started writing songs with another friend that I just met last year, and we started writing songs that we intend to, just like kind of songs that we're just trying to like get placed in the sync world, in the licensing world, and also like trying to get considered to be songwriters for like more successful recording artists and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's fun writing songs that way too, where I'm like, it's not really personal, it's not really about me. It's just sort of like, let's write a song that sounds like it would go well in an Apple commercial. Let's
Right.
and that's fun.
Sure. No, that's awesome. So now You grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. Is that correct?
That's right.
Right. Now, were you raised Mormon or?
Oh, sure thing. Oh, better.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So when did you like, I guess what would the right word be, escape from that?
I don't know about escape because my whole family still lives there, and
Mm,
all my like closest friends from high school are still there, and many of my close friends and family are still within. So, I personally no longer have like a personal association with the church, but I do like many people who I really care about and who are really close to me are still uh in inside
mm,
to one degree or another. And I still kind of culturally identify with it. I'm like, hey,
mm.
you can't really like you can take like the boy out of Mormonism, but you can't really take the Mormonism out of the boy. Like I still like, I'm like a Mormon white kid from Utah. But I just am also an atheist who's a recovering addict and like like
Yeah.
in AA and stuff. But yeah, to more succinctly answer your question, I was about 19 years old when I stopped going to church.
Okay. And what age would you say you started to, you know, wanted to pursue what you're doing now? And was there a specific thing? Like, did you want to be an actor? Do you want to be a musician?
Whole life,
Mm,
I meet people all the time on movie sets and doing theater and things like that who like they've got a story of like the first time that a teacher at school in high school asked them to audition for a school play and they saw something in them that they thought, I bet you'd be good in a play, and then they really liked the way it felt and they fell in love with it. And like I don't really, it's weird. I don't have that. I just always was doing this stuff and I always wanted to be doing this stuff. I wasn't like a child actor whose parents got him into it and I never
yeah.
really knew anything else. I was, from the moment I was able to articulate what I wanted to do, I was telling my parents I want to be on stage doing plays, I want to be
Yeah.
on TV, I want, and so they were just helping to facilitate what I was always telling them I wanted to do. And I've just sort of been doing it my whole entire life. I've never really wanted to do anything else. So
Yeah. Now, like I said before, you do a multitude of things. But if, all of the above, if you could only do one of those things, what would it be now?
you're killing me, Mike. That's my least favorite question. People ask me, 'cause I'm just like, oh God, like the thing that I'm most known for currently in the last 5 years or so is the content creation and acting. I've done like 5 films in the last 5 years, and so people see those from time to time. People will see like a TV show that I pop up in, or a commercial on TV or something like that. So people are like tangentially aware that I'm an actor, but I think most people know me for the stuff that I do on the internet. I really
Mhm.
enjoy making internet content, and I love the opportunity to work from home and be my own boss. But if I had my pick of like what I would like to do professionally and get to do for the rest of my life, especially if I had to pick one thing, I would love for this impossible to crack industry to give me a shot at like being a filmmaker. And I would love
Mhm.
to just like, be a director. Every time that I get to direct, I feel the most excited and in love with the craft. Like
Yes.
I love acting. I love being in service of someone else's project and someone else's vision.
Mhm.
I love the release that songwriting gives me and like what that serves for me psychologically. But like directing for me, especially directing film, and I've directed a fair amount of theater as well. But directing for me is like being the painter,
Yeah.
acting is being the brush or being one of the paints on the palette, one of the colors. But directing is like you are the painter, you are the sculptor. And I really, really, every time I'm doing that, every time I'm in conversation with a DP talking about like how we can accomplish a certain shot that's in my head, and then I'm standing at Video Village watching them accomplish the thing that was in my head just a few days earlier, it's such a magical thing to be like, that came, like, that was
Yeah.
image in my brain, and now there it is on the monitor, and it's so fulfilling and life affirming. And so it's a very, very, very hard job to get people to like give you permission to do.
Mm.
But every time I do get permission to do it, I really think like I could do this for the rest of my life, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
have to do it.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. So now you're everywhere. You're all over the internet, almost every platform. The internet's such a crazy place. So how do you deal with like any kind of negativity? Because there's just so much of it in all these places.
You know, good question. Today, it's happening today. It happens like 3 or 4 times a week, and every time it happens, I act like it's like the first time it's ever happened to me. But like, I made a video about communication specifically, about like what makes communication difficult, and it was in response to a girl who made a viral video of a girl who was saying, "Why can't men just understand hints? You know,
Mhm.
I'm so tired of having to spell everything out. Why can't you just understand hints?" And I made a response saying that like I can't speak for all men, but for myself, uh, I don't feel comfortable making a move or approaching a woman in a certain way
Mhm.
without knowing that I have clear, enthusiastic consent to do so.
Mhm.
And that's just for me. And it's so funny because my response was in response to what I assumed she meant by hints. And all of these other people in my comments were like, well, I assumed when she said hints, she was referring to hints to get a guy to leave her alone. And so my response seemed really insensitive in that way, where they were like,
Right.
well, if you assume that she's saying, how can I just get guys to understand that I don't want them to approach me? And then I'm responding going like, well, I don't, you know, like trying to make a defense of myself. But it all centers around what we assume she means, because she's not actually saying in her video what specifically she means by hints. Some people assume she was talking about weaponized incompetence and how men can pretend like they don't know that the dishes need to be done unless their wife tells them, or and so
Right.
everyone was sort of assuming based on what their subjective experience was, and it led to all this miscommunication. And so my comment section today is like on fire with a lot of miscommunication. And I think the answer to your question that I have to come back to over and over and over again when it comes to negativity and people maybe misinterpreting something that I put out, or interpreting something that I put out in a very negative way, or having negative feelings toward me because of something that I've said, is to try my best to not take things personally, to understand that like everything that I say on the internet, doesn't matter how specific I try to be with my word choice, it always has to get filtered through the subjective lens of an entirely other person's brain.
Right.
And I can't really do anything about that. Like
Right.
I could be as specific as I want, and through the subjective lens of another person's mind, it can be interpreted as the exact opposite of what I'm saying.
Right.
And it doesn't really matter if that is what I'm saying or not. It's like their feelings make it real for them. And trying to parse that out in the comments section of a video on the internet is next to impossible.
Right.
Doesn't stop me from trying. I try all the time, and I rarely, if ever, succeed. But it's good for me to always remember that it's not personal, that it's not actually about me, that it's about that person and whatever their personal experience is, and how that's framing and recontextualizing whatever it is that I've said. And then also, it's nice to remember that, like, for most things, the internet has a pretty short memory. Like, we kind of tend to say, like, the internet is forever, and like that people will never let something go if you make a mistake. But I think that the reality of that is that's for like pretty big and repeated mistakes, like big bad behavior that has a pattern of recurring. People will sort of drudge up receipts and instances where a person has done a certain thing over and over and over again throughout time. But like every little thing that happens on my page on a weekly basis that someone feels is like a cancelable offense, and
Mhm.
it gets me scared because they're talking in a way that really seems like they're about to wage a campaign to like make sure that Austin Archer's reputation is ruined in the public eye. And I get so nervous that I think it's gonna happen every single week. It pretty much never does. And I think that's just because like it's usually just like a handful of people, and usually they forget about it in a couple days because the thing that they're mad about that day isn't actually that big in the grand scheme of things. It's not that
Right.
big of a deal. And so, yeah, this stuff, it happens all the time. And I do get nervous about it because I'm a people pleaser and because I want to be liked and I want to be perfectly understood whenever I speak. And being liked by everyone and being perfectly understood by everyone is impossible. So the best thing I can do is just like put up my next video. Is like
Yeah.
trust that I know myself better than the people who are misinterpreting what I'm saying, and just
Right.
like keep going. And also that like my brain, I have a brain that will see 5 negative comments on a video that has 1,500 comments on it, and I'll assume that that means that everyone hates me. And it's like, no, there's 1,495 people in the comments saying how much they enjoyed the video.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I just focus in on the 5 negative comments. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard not to focus on, even if it's one comment, you know, on thousands of positive comments. But with all that being said, you know, I personally don't find your content offensive in any way. You know what I mean? Like, people make things out to be way bigger than they are sometimes. And like you said, there's miscommunication going on and things like that. But you know, you make good points. You really do. And maybe some people find that offensive. I don't know. I think that is a problem on the internet, actually. Which platform do you find the most lucrative? Like, you know, what works best for you? Not necessarily financially, just, you know, in general.
I know what you mean. Well, I started making video essays last year on YouTube, and I've really enjoyed that process because I'm a long-winded person, as you can tell from how long it takes me to answer every one of your.
No, I love it. I love it.
But it's a better format, I think, for me in the way that I process and the way that I think and the way that I elucidate my views. But I'm writing a video right now about like the algorithm and about this thing that sort of pervades across all of these different platforms, and specifically about how like since the time I've started doing this full time. I've only been doing this full time for like 4 years, but I've been making videos for like 10 years. But since I've been doing it full time, I see people over and over and over again who their brand online is to insist that they understand the algorithm, that they've figured it out, that they understand something about the algorithm that the rest of us don't, and you need to follow them for tips on how to like hack the algorithm. And I really firmly, I don't really know much, but I really firmly believe this, that nobody actually knows what's going on.
Right.
Not even people who work for these platforms.
Right.
So when the question is like, which one works the best? It changes on a week-to-week basis. Like
Okay.
TikTok used to be unquestionably my best platform, and it bothered me because TikTok had like the strictest content moderation process. So like any person who reports your video for any reason, they would take the video down and give your account a strike and say, you know, too many more of those, will suspend your account. And even though like it could be like a completely erroneous thing that someone's reporting your video for, and they don't have a good enough content moderation process to like actually check whether or not the accusation is accurate, you know. But TikTok was my best platform for a very long time. It's still the place where I have the largest. I have 1.5 million followers on TikTok. I have under 100,000 followers on Instagram, and I have just over 30,000 subscribers on YouTube. So it makes sense that TikTok should be the top of my funnel. But in the last 4 months, TikTok has just shut down my account. They've just stopped letting me get videos through. So like the vast majority of videos that I post on TikTok have a hard time breaking like 5,000 views. I have 1.5 million followers, and most of my videos on Instagram Reels will get anywhere between like 50 to 150,000 views.
Wow.
And so Instagram Reels is currently like the top of my filter. But just in the last week or so, my YouTube channel has started to take off. Like I gained like 500 new subscribers in the last week, and my videos are starting to get a lot higher views. But it's just like that can change on a dime, and it does all the time, and it is just up to the mysterious, unknowable whims of this ever-present, ever-powerful algorithm that no one really fully comprehends or understands. And people like to pretend that they do, but as far as I can tell, the only thing that, like, the algorithm has no rhyme or reason. It has patterns, and like it has patterns that it will do for me. There are things that I can like reliably know, like the algorithm will never let me have a video go viral that features my music. Like if it's me saying, hey, here's a song that I wrote that I'm really excited about, the algorithm will never let that be a hit. I have no idea why. I just know that it won't let it. But that's not a rule that the algorithm has across the board for all creators. There are many creators who have gone massively viral on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube just saying, hey, here's a song I wrote. And it's just them sitting on their bed playing their guitar. A new song they wrote, and that song blows up. I mean, there's this artist that I follow on TikTok who I love named Jensen McCrae, and she posts songs all the time to her TikTok, and not all of them blow up, but a couple of them have gone viral. And now like Justin Bieber is talking about her music and stuff, you know, and it's like, so the algorithm doesn't across the board say no music posts. It just says no music posts for me in particular. And there's no reason to. So
yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know if that functions as an answer to your question.
No, it does. It does. That actually happened with the band Dury. Familiar with them?
Yes. Yes.
They had that song blow up. I actually had them on the show. I interviewed them. Awesome guys. But yeah, that one little song there made it to everyone, you know, and your music's awesome. So even the parody songs, they're just great.
Yeah,
so,
parody songs. I had some very viral hits with the parody song. You would think that would have been like a gateway drug into Austin Archer's music. Like people would, oh, I like this funny song that this person released. I wonder if he's ever, but no. So my parody songs have gotten like tens of millions of views, and you think that like a couple 100,000 people in there would be curious and go check on Spotify to see if I have anything else. But no, but anytime, and I've made hundreds of videos featuring my real music, and none of those have ever, I think probably the most views I've ever gotten on a video like that is like 10,000.
Wow. Yeah. That's interesting. I wonder if there's anything to the fact that it's kind of two different styles of music, right? Yeah. Like it's the same thing. But there's comedy songs, and then there's like serious music. Who knows?
And it's also, I think that one of the things about my brand, if you want to call it that, or my style of content is I do a lot of different things. I do a lot of different styles of video, and some of them are just more popular than others with my audience, and more specifically with the algorithm. The algorithm just has a tendency to be more favorable with certain types of videos that I make than others. And I still don't understand why.
But I remember maybe this was months ago, but you had an issue with fake accounts, right?
Always.
On TikTok.
Yeah, that's ongoing, and it's constant. I always have copycat accounts popping up, and
so they basically just using your name, taking your videos, and I mean that's fraud.
Yeah, once again, speaking of like the frustration of TikTok being my biggest platform, and TikTok being, in my opinion, the poorest managed of all of the video platforms. Like they all have problems. Like YouTube has major problems, and Meta has major problems. But like I don't think any platform is more poorly managed at a corporate level than TikTok. And it's crazy that like I've had my account suspended several times because people made erroneous, inaccurate reports on videos saying that I was like engaging in hate speech or something on a video where I just wasn't. And that video was, not only was that video taken away, but my account was suspended for like 2 weeks. But I will go and report a copycat account and say, and it's me going to TikTok and saying, this is not me. This is someone stealing my identity. and they'll look into it and come back and go, we didn't find any problems with this account. Like and they'll straight up be like, we looked at it and it's it looks like it's you. And I'm like, no, but I'm telling you it's not me. And I'm me. And so it's like, this is how poorly managed TikTok is.
Yeah.
And also, like, I'm not actually talking to a person when I go and say, hey, they're stealing my identity. I'm getting a chat bot that's responding to me and saying, oh, we looked into it, and so it's like, what I've learned to do with those copycat accounts is as soon as I identify them, I just block them so that they're cut off from being able to steal my content anymore. And I just try to ignore them and pretend like they don't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to get this issue all the time with Facebook. I mean, who cares about Facebook anymore, really? But I'd put my videos up there and I would use like a stock music song and it would say that it was copyright infringement. It's a royalty-free, probably an iMovie song, And I think what people do is they actually do claim that sound as theirs and probably make money off of it somehow. I don't even know. But I had to keep telling them. I had to keep telling them the same thing over and over again. I'm like, it's not a copyright.
I've gotten copyright infringement when I've used my own song. TikTok has come in and been like you don't have permission to use this song. I'm like, oh, but I'm the one who wrote it. I'm like, it's my song.
Right. Right.
But I can't I've never actually been able to speak to a human being at TikTok. It seems like all of these things could just be resolved if I could speak to a human being and be like, hey, but also, how do you have enough people on staff to deal with the complaints of over 1 billion daily users who are posting billions of videos a day? It's just it's impossible.
Yeah. I don't think humans work anywhere anymore.
Yeah.
Anything I try to call or do, it's all automated and it's rare to get to a human. One of my favorite things that you do on one of your videos, when you have a conversation with yourself, basically, it's two people.
Hey, I'm taking off for the day. See you next year. Wait, but... Your calendar. It's still stuck on November. Oh, good point. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Next year. Yeah.
What's the process behind making one of those and about how long does it take on average?
Yeah, I love making those videos. And again, I did not invent the shot reverse shot.
Right. You do it very well though.
Yeah, thank
A
you.
lot of people do it, but not everyone can do it right.
Yeah, I think the key is in the reaction shots, to be honest. I think that being able to cut between the two characters while another showing the reaction of another character while the other character is talking.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that's that makes it feel organic. And
yes.
The key is in the edit, getting it to feel like a real conversation.
Yeah, the timing too.
Yeah, the process is, and I've really honed this in over the years because I've had several different processes, but I've really gotten those specific videos streamlined. In fact, that's where I really started as a content creator. I had an Instagram channel called Me and Me Comedy, where all the sketches were just that. It was just shot, reverse shot of me playing both characters. And those were 15-second videos, so I didn't really need to write anything out for them. But now that I'm making sketches that are 1.5 minutes long or sometimes 2 or 3 minutes long, I write a script with both characters' lines, and then I have 2 phones that I shoot with. I have a phone that I usually use to shoot and edit it on, and then I have a phone that I use that's my post. It's I have one phone that's essentially just a camera.
Yeah.
But I will have my lines on a phone on a tripod that's just off to the left or right of the lens of the camera that's filming. And I'll read the line, I'll read the lines right off the phone. And I also use that as my eye line for the other person. So I'm reading the other person's lines, and I can also read their lines and react to their lines and do all of my reaction shots. And I'll shoot the entire first character first, and then I just move the camera over to the other, or move the lines over to the other side of the camera. And I move whatever my key light is over to the other side of the camera. And it creates the illusion of a nice 180 pivot of a shot reverse shot. And I just read the other character, and I usually change my wardrobe. And those videos usually can, between writing and shooting and editing, I can usually get those done in like 90 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Wow. That's, I would have assumed it would have been longer for some reason, but you do a great job on those, man. Those are so funny. Have you ever done stand-up?
yeah.
You have?
Yeah. I lived in New York City for 3 years, and I used to go out with a lot of friends that were like professional stand-ups, and they would go to mics every night. They'd go to like 3 or 4 mics a night. And sometimes I would go out and just get drunk and just do the mics with them. I couldn't really perform unless I had like 4 or 5 drinks in me. I'm 6 years sober, but
Wow.
this is how I perform. But yeah, what I realized, I mean, stand-up was fun for me to just go out to mics and just try it out as like an exercise and just to sort of test myself and see what it was like. I was always better off the cuff than I was with written material. My written material always bombed. And I think that's the key of stand-up, is that it's like you write by bombing. Like you have to go and like speak your written material and see where it is working and where it's not working, and then rewrite it based on what rhythms were working and what people were responding to. And you kind of have to like write in a process of like going to multiple mics and continuing to write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite the bit until it consistently works. And I just didn't have the patience for a process like that. And I think that in order to be a successful stand-up comedian, it kind of has to be like what you do. It kind of has to be your main thing. And I don't think it's a thing that you can just do on the side as a hobby every once in a while and get really good at it.
Yeah.
So I stopped doing stand-up, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
watch comedy on the internet, you know.
I mean, I've never seen any clips of you doing it or anything. I just, I could picture you doing it, but I get what you're saying. Yeah. You got to dedicate every minute to it. Yeah.
There's a reason why stand-ups have sort of a reputation for being like salty, cynical people. It's because like a big hallmark of their job is to have like a really thick and almost like defensive skin, to be like, I'm always ready to like jab back, because part of my job is to like be professionally humiliated in front of people and like take it with a smile and like roll with the punches and punch back. And I don't know if I have the patience or the temperament to do that.
Yeah, very well said. Who are some of your top comedians?
Oh man, I'm gonna get canceled if I answer that question.
No.
You know, I'm trying to think of like who really made me laugh in the last few years, with like specials that I saw. I was so surprised by Shane Gillis's special. I laughed a lot in that special, and all I knew about Shane Gillis was like him getting fired from SNL and like, all of that stuff,
which he's hosting this week.
Yeah. I think that's great, but also like Shane Gillis and I are like two people who have a lot, probably, I assume, a lot of different like socio-political views and opinions. And I think that his general audience and the people who listen to his podcast and who are his fans probably wouldn't be fans of my content. And he approaches things from a perspective that like isn't the same as mine. But my big thing for a stand-up comedian is I really don't care what your politics are or like how quote unquote offensive what you're saying is. My number one rule for stand-up is make me laugh. Pull it off, make me laugh, and I'll go with you. Like we can be completely in disagreement on what you're saying, but if you're funny about it, I'll go with you there.
Yeah.
You know, and
I totally agree with that.
That's the big thing when stand-up comedians complain about you can't say anything these days. And it's like, you can say whatever the fuck you want, just pull it off. Like make it, you know.
Right. Yeah, like one of my favorites is Anthony Jeselnik. And I
Yes.
mean, he's, you know, definitely not everyone's cup of tea. And, you know, some people I'll recommend them to, they just don't get it. And they'll be like, you know, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know? And I'm like, you just got to look, it's a character, but he pulls it off so well and he makes it so believable that it doesn't really matter what he says. It just totally works,
Well,
you know?
he talks about this. Anthony Jeselnik talks about like
Yeah.
comedy is what you can get away with, you know, like
Right.
it's like if you're gonna do it, just make sure you land it. And that's honestly
Yeah.
like I'm a big fan of Dave Chappelle and the Dave Chappelle show. My problem with Dave Chappelle's last few specials isn't just solely rooted in the fact that he's stuck on this trans topic. Like
Right.
I obviously disagree with Dave Chappelle and like a lot of the way that he's approaching that topic, but my biggest issue is that the specials aren't making me laugh. It
Yeah.
just looks like a really rich guy on stage complaining about the fact that people are mad at him because they feel like he's being insensitive to the trans community.
Right.
And he just like can't let it go. He's just like so flabbergasted that anyone would dare to accuse him of being transphobic, that he's done like 3 straight specials about it. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, and my thing as a fan of comedy and as a fan of his is I'm like, hey man, like go ahead if you want to make 3 straight specials about how no one understands what your heart and how they're mischaracterizing you as a transphobe, that's totally fine. But like, could you please make me laugh in these specials?
Right.
That's my #1 qualification for you as a stand-up comedian and as
Right.
your fan. Is like when I sit down to watch your special, I really need you to like get to me and make
Yeah.
me laugh.
Yeah.
And mostly what I'm seeing is him just like kind of complaining. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
to me, it's not landing, it's not making me laugh. One of my favorite stand-up comedians who I still watch his work, and this is the thing that I'm gonna get canceled for, is Louis CK. And the reason is I just laugh harder than I laugh when I watch kind of anything else. Like
Yeah.
there's nobody in the business who's better at, even though I have feelings about Louis and I have thoughts about like the kind of man that he is. My thing about Louis is like, I feel like he's always upfront about the kind of person that he is,
Yeah.
and he always makes me laugh.
Yes.
He always gets through to me, and not just like makes me laugh, like chuckle, like I'm like crying laughing when I watch his specials.
Yeah.
You know, so
I completely agree. As far as Chappelle goes, I mean, it starts to become more of watching shock value than comedy, right? And I agree. The last couple of specials, I'm like, all right, I get it, but you know, yeah, I feel the same way. I'm not laughing like that. And as far as Louis C.K. goes, yeah, it was a hard sell for me to like try to get my wife to watch his specials because, you know, she heard what's going on. She's not a huge follower of this stuff, but she knows what's going on. And I'm like, you can't get them anywhere else. You have to get them on his website. And she was like, nah. I'm like, all right, well, anyway, I got them and they were just ridiculous. They're so funny. You know, the Dolby one, just unbelievable.
he's all even before he was canceled and all this stuff, he was always and I don't, that's a whole thing. Like, I don't actually believe that Louis C.K. has been canceled because Louis C.K. is still has a very successful, thriving comedy
Right.
career.
Right.
Louis C.K. has new context about him and about past behavior that has a lot of people in the population deciding they can no longer be fans of his. And that's
Right.
like, I think that's a different thing than his career being over, because his career is certainly not over. But like, even before all this stuff happened, Louis he always had a way of talking about like the worst of human behavior
Right.
and talking about himself in doing terrible things, but
Mhm.
doing it in a way that makes us laugh. Like being like, yeah, I walk around my house and I speak to myself in a stereotypical Black accent sometimes.
Right.
And sort of saying a thing that like you laugh at because you're like, shit, I've done that when no one's around.
Right.
And it's like this thing that like you understand, you're like, oh, I would never tell anyone that. And he's telling us that he does that. But so some of my favorite jokes that he's had in his last few specials revolve around the thing that he is like now known for.
Yes.
And the way that he just goes like, yes, I am that guy. And he finds a way to talk about it in a way that like makes me pee my pants laughing.
Yeah.
He finds a way to just be like, yeah, I'm like kind of a gross little pervert.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? There's an honesty to it that
Yeah.
makes you a little more comfortable with it. And I never know how to say this, but there's levels of severity to these things that people do. You know what I mean? I'm not saying his behavior is excusable. But it's not like he was like Harvey Weinstein, you know what I mean? Where it was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
he gets a pass.
And I don't even think that like I don't think it's about condoning his behavior or saying that his behavior isn't problematic or is okay. Like it has
Right.
nothing to do with really that. But it's like you were talking about trying to convince your wife to watch the special.
Yeah.
Like in the Madison Square Garden thing, I love that he just goes, hey, you guys, thanks for being here. I understand that it's hard to be my fan right now. I know that each one of you has someone who you had to lie to about what you were doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's so funny that it's so true that everyone's like, yeah, everyone has at least one friend that they were like, what are you doing tonight? And they were like, I'm
Yeah.
It's like they don't want to say I'm going
Right.
to see Louis C.K. at Madison Square Garden. But like the fact that he's aware of that and that he
Yeah.
can just make a joke about it, I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah.
No, that's some of the best comedy to me is relatable, right?
Yeah.
Like you're very relatable. That you make me laugh. Like the other night before I messaged you to be on the show, I was watching TikTok. You had the video where the guy's skiing and juggling.
Yeah.
That I was crying, man. That was so fucking funny.
Hey, do you ever see a video like this? And just think to yourself, what is life like for that person? Like, is their life so free from stress, free from anxiety, free from fear, so boring, so uneventful, so easy that they sit around and kind of invent ways to make life more challenging so that they can have a shot at potentially struggling with something or feeling something? Like, is that person just sitting around going like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm so bored. Everything is so easy. And they go through a list of things that they've already done, like unicycle on a tightrope over a pit of alligators. I've already done that. One. Jump out of a plane without a parachute, but the parachute is on a sack of potatoes and I have to fly over to the sack of potatoes and pull the parachute off of the potatoes and put it on myself. And then I have to open the sack of potatoes and peel them and make mashed potatoes in the air before I pull my parachute. I did that one. And then they're like, I know, I'll juggle bowling pins while skiing down a mountain, but I'll throw the bowling pins around trees that I'm zigzagging in and out of, and I'll also kick the bowling pins off of my skis occasionally. And maybe that will challenge me. Maybe that will be hard for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you ever think about that? Like, that's a real person. That's a real person's life. And I don't know, my day today was, it took me 3 hours to get the strength to go to the store. And I did it. I went and I got almost all of the things that I was supposed to get. Almost all of them. I only forgot a couple things, but I got pretty much everything. And I'm also going to clean my apartment today. Maybe. I'm going to. I'm gonna do that as well. And that's my life. So
It's so true. Like I see those things all the time and I think those things all the time. Like, who is doing this stuff? Like I went bowling a couple days ago and I'm like still recovering from it. Like no joke. Like my arm hurts, my back hurts. You know, and
Yeah.
this guy's skiing down a mountain, juggling, I guess they were bowling pins, you know, kicking them up in the air and just like, that's just a regular day for this guy.
Do you follow Jacob Acrobat on TikTok?
No.
There's this guy with like a twisty mustache named Jacob Acrobat, and he's a
All right,
circus
then.
performer. And his whole content is just him doing things that with a really casual vibe, like a really laid back casual vibe. But they're things that are like impossible. Like they're just like he just does impossible things. And yeah, people that have skill sets like that, I'm like, are you superhuman? Like, are you a superhero? But then I also think like, no, it's literally just a practiced skill like anything else. But his videos I watch and I go, so that means that how much time did you spend as a person who does this professionally learning that one? Because there are all these just like crazy things where he'll just be like, he'll just sort of like, like toss like a peach up in the air and then like, flick a dart up to his hand from his toes and then throw the dart and it like goes through the peach and
Yeah.
and then like he turns the peach around and the peach has like a bullseye drawn on it that he like hit with the dart. And you're like, what did you
Yeah.
what did you sit down and figure that
Yeah.
out?
I know. It's like, how many times did you do that to get that shot? You know, I've been watching your YouTube videos actually, and the review of Argylle was phenomenal, man. That was so good.
This movie has a 70% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, which I just think is entirely unacceptable. Again, people are allowed to like things. You're allowed to enjoy something. It's okay for us to have a difference of opinion on a movie or a song or a TV show. That's fine. But 7 out of 10 people going to the movie theater and seeing Argylle and thinking, that was pretty good, that's not fine. That's not acceptable to me. I don't accept those numbers. Unacceptable! There are so many things wrong with Argylle.
I actually saw that movie. It's terrible. It's an absolutely terrible movie. And we see, like, my wife and I, we go to the movies all the time. We have like a movie pass.
Yeah.
That's all we do. We watch movies. And because of that, we see everything, meaning like they're not all good. So we see a lot of bad fucking movies. As a matter of fact, just the last one we saw, Madam Web. Wow.
Ooh,
Oh, you saw it?
no.
Oh my God.
That's one of those movies that like you look at the poster, like it doesn't have a chance. Like it just doesn't have a shot.
Yeah, the trailer looked awful. Everything just looked awful about it. But it was one of those things, and we knew it was bad going into it. But it was, and I was trying to hope it was going to be like, so bad it's good. No.
Yeah. It comes back around, but no. It's so funny. So many people in the comments for my Argylle review were like, how can you be this mad about Argylle when Madam Web just came out? Like, but clearly Madam Web is the worst movie. And here's my distinction there is I'm like, I think that the people who made Madam Web knew from the jump that there wasn't a shot in hell of it working. Madam Web is one of those movies that like Sony was like, we need to keep making films in the Spider-Man universe so that we retain the rights to these characters. And so whether they're good or not, we need to like
they just throw it together.
We just need to like get like we put a cast together for this thing, and they hire these 2 writers who are sort of these hired gun writers who write a bunch of movies like this. That like these writers aren't interested or passionate about writing Madam Web. They're hired by Sony to write it because Sony knows they turn in scripts on time and they listen to producer notes. And so like they're just like it's not about the quality. And I think it's one of those projects where like no one involved was trying to like pull one over on the audience. My problem with Argylle is that for years now, Matthew Vaughn has been saying in interviews that this movie is going to like reinvent the spy thriller genre. It's going to like Argylle is going to be the biggest character since James Bond. Like he's saying, it's like this amazing movie that he's made. It's based on this incredible book series that he found. Turns out the book series is fake. He made it up. And the movie that cost $200 million is just dog shit. And so I'm like, hey, no, like that movie, it's insane that it cost $200 million. And also for how much like hype you talked about the thing that you were making, absolutely not. Like
yeah. First of all, why was it almost 2.5 hours? Like why?
Yeah.
There was no reason for that. When we were going to see it, I looked at the time and I'm like, this must be a mistake. It can't be. It's just like it's an action movie. It should be like an hour and a half, 2.5 hours almost. And yeah, just bad. Just bad. I don't know if it suffered from being PG-13 because his movies usually aren't.
You could have used some
But
more like ultra violence for sure.
it needed something. It definitely needed something. It needed a lot. Um, the one thing I definitely agree with you on was when they were going back and forth between Henry Cavill and Sam Rockwell on the train. Like that was just confusing and boring.
It needs like six fewer twists as well.
Yeah, yeah. That was another thing too. Just changed way too off, not in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a terrible
enough
movie.
twists. Just keep it.
Yeah.
Like, tell me a simple beginning, middle, and end story, and like have some cool action. You know, John Wick is a movie about a guy
Yeah.
who they kill his dog that his dying wife gave to him, and so he goes and gets revenge.
Yeah.
For killing his dog.
Right.
And it's just
That's it.
It's a simple little place for
Right.
really cool action sequences to rest on top of, and it's like,
Yes.
you know,
And exactly, they focus on the action scenes in those movies. That's what makes it so gripping. You know, they didn't really focus on anything in that other movie. It was just all over the place.
Yeah.
So yeah, anybody wants a good laugh, before if you're thinking about watching Argylle for 2.5 hours, watch Austin Archer's review for an hour. 10 million times better.
I'm gonna look up the budget for Dune Part 2 because that's my next movie that I'm like actually really excited for.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, of course. Like this is crazy. The budget for Dune Part 2 is $122 million.
Mhm.
$80 million fewer than Argylle, and I guarantee you that Dune Part 2 is going to be 100 times more epic in scope and like beautiful looking on the screen and so much it'll feel so much more like they used every single ounce of that $120 million budget. Whereas yeah, it's like it's crazy.
Absolutely.
It's insane
Absolutely.
that Argylle has a budget that's $80 million more than Dune 2.
That really is crazy.
Yeah.
Especially that I know it's 3 hours.
Yeah.
And just from the trailer, you can tell they spent some money.
It's gonna be like,
Yeah.
this has been a rough first couple months of 2024 for movies. Like,
Oh God, yeah.
And I think Dune 2 is our first like big like banger. Like we're gonna get
Yes. I'm gonna go see Drive Away Dolls tomorrow. The new Cohen. I think it's Ethan Cohen, one of the Cohens.
Yep.
Which I'm really excited about because everything I've seen lately has just been pretty brutal. So hopefully that's a redemption there. Should be. Even the Bob Marley movie just was not good.
Yeah,
It just wasn't.
Frequently January and February are not great months for movies, but usually you'll get like one or two in there that you're like, but I feel like January and February of 2024 has been rough. Has been like
Lisa Frankenstein, that was rough. No, bad. So let's get into the music a little bit.
Okay.
As I said before, Austin Archer music.bandcamp.com for everything Austin Archer. The deluxe edition double vinyl Beautiful Things is available now. And everybody out there, support artists, you know, when you have your Apple Music, but if you really like something, buy it, you know?
Yeah.
Not from Amazon, from the artist.
You know, I've got my friend who's trying to produce this new record that I'm writing, and I'm really trying to, I mean, it's up to him. Like he's gonna be the person. I'm gonna really try to like relinquish creative control over like the sound and let him kind of do what he wants to do. But I've told him that I want to strip back and get back to something that just sounds a little more like simple and just like puts the emphasis on the lyric and the melody, that like that's where we're really living, and we're not trying to do too much with the production, because I think that there's a lot going on Beautiful Things with like there's a lot of songs where I'm really throwing the kitchen sink at the production, but the songs that like really are kind of, I think, universally work are those simple ones, like When I Was Cool, where it's just like, and those are always my favorite songs anyway. They're just songs that when I sit down to write them, they just sort of pour out very simply, and it's a really like clear, specific thing that I'm talking about. And writing about. And so I sort of want this next record to just be that, where it's just sort of
Yeah.
like the emphasis is on melody and lyric, and that should be able to sustain the song without anything else. And then anything else that we add to it is just sort of like, what's the best tempo for the song to sit in the best groove? What are the best, like, just a couple complementary elements of like, is there a violin or a cello or maybe like a little trumpet here and there, you know, like what's the,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, no, that'll be awesome. Like a whole album like that would be great. Just the simplicity and authenticity
Yeah.
of you, you know. I love a good sad song. And my wife actually she says my music is emo music. I mean, that's a whole different genre, but she's not wrong, I guess. I guess the question I have is, why do we like sad songs so much? Like me and you, or just anybody in general who,
Yeah, you know, it's so
why?
funny. Yeah, the vast majority of songs that I've ever written in my life are sad songs, and I don't know what it is about writing from a sad place. I mean, talk to Taylor Swift, like she's found a way to make a broken heart or hurt feelings very like pump up and fun and pop,
Yeah.
but it's still like she's writing from a place of like hurt, and that's where she's primarily writing from. Um, I did say this, you know, recently to my songwriting partner that I'm writing songs with, who's a woman. I was like, you know, I envy the fact that like women get to write breakup songs that are like, fuck you, like I don't care about you anymore. Like you
Yeah.
could have had all this, and like now you don't get to have it anymore. I'm like, guys breakup songs are never like that. Men are never like, well, you really blew it. Like you had me and you blew it. Men's breakup songs are always like, I've never been more lonely in my life. I miss you. Like there's an emptiness in my heart that can't, like there's a hole now that you're gone, you know. But I don't know, like that EP, You're Just Killing Your Poor Mother. My mom, my whole life has been telling me that she wishes I would write more happy songs because my songs were always so sad. And I wanted to. I had just begun the process of getting sober when I was writing that EP, and I wanted to like sort of purge myself of my last few sad songs, and then I wanted to focus on writing an album that was going to be decidedly more upbeat and fun. And so I wrote You're Just Killing Your Poor Mother as like, you know, like, hey mom, I'm going to set these sad songs down here. And then I wrote Beautiful Things, and Beautiful Things was supposed to be sort of my effort to like come out of the shadows and write some like celebratory, upbeat, rock and roll, fun songs. And in many ways, those are on Beautiful Things. I mean, the album starts with that like 1-2 punch of like Beautiful Things into the comeback, and it's like it's a very celebratory announcement at the top of the album. But like, you know, I don't know. I thought I was done writing songs for Beautiful Things, and I thought that the album was all done. And then my best friend died by suicide, and I had to like incorporate him into the album. So like the last song on the album became a song about him, and then his voice got put into the production of the album, and like he got woven. So like the album became sad, even when I was trying really hard not to make it sad. And I don't know. I just think that like there's something about a song that can access a kind of feeling and emotion for you, you know, like and I do like listening to a happy, excited pump up song. I really like listening to a song that makes me feel like let's go. But I have a hard time writing those songs, and I also just, man, like I love a song that just like breaks my heart, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know, and maybe it is just that.
Yeah, I guess there is no answer to that one. It's just
Yeah.
It's just what we're programmed as, I guess, you know.
Yeah. I came up with Elliott Smith and stuff, you know, and like
yeah.
I just feel like that's a guy who like you could just hear the pain in every song. Like it just, it couldn't not be there. It just was always there. You know?
Right. No, absolutely. So you mentioned sobriety a number of times. We should get into that tiny bit if you don't mind. How did you find the transition from, you know, not sober to being sober, creatively? Was there some kind of a, because a lot of people say, you know, oh, I can't do this without this. I can't do this without alcohol or without cocaine, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yes, I definitely was a Hemingway writer, you know, like write drunk, edit sober, for like scripts and stuff like that I would write, or songs. I would write lyrics, you know, and then wake up the next day and like edit it sober. And I definitely bought into the idea that my creative muse came from my sorrow and my, you know, sort of dysfunction and my mess. And that I wouldn't have anything interesting to write about, or I wouldn't even have the ability to write without that dysfunction and without that mess. And I
Mhm.
largely just my personal experience has been in sobriety is that like that is the lie of depression and disease, is like that like you need it. Like
Mhm.
the lie that depression tells you is that like it's making you a more interesting person.
Right.
Yes, it sucks to be sad, it hurts, but like this is what makes you this is what gives you your edge. This is what makes you an interesting artist. This is, you know, without this, you're just like everyone else, you're boring. You're just like, you know, and I mean, one thing I'll say is like being sober doesn't mean that I don't get sad. Like being sober doesn't mean that life doesn't happen and that I don't like run into things that bum me out. You know, like
Yeah.
in the time that I've been sober, my best friend died. I had a 3.5 year long relationship that ended. You know, like I've like had jobs come and go, and you know, like I've had health issues, and like I've had my best friend of like almost 20 years told me that he didn't want to be my friend 2 years ago anymore, and we haven't spoken in 2 years. And
Oh,
like, you know, like things happen in sobriety. Like life continues to do life stuff. Like, so I continue to have things to write about, and I continue to like have pain to draw on. Um, and and honestly, in the near 6 years that I've been sober, I've kind of experienced a creative renaissance in my life, an explosion where like it almost was like I was operating with one arm tied behind my back, and now I get to like operate at full force. And you know, I personally don't think it's any coincidence that I've had the most mainstream success artistically of my life in the years that I've been sober. That like,
yeah.
you know, sort of the hatch has been opened up, and like the it's coming out full force now, and I'm able to operate at a higher capacity, and I'm able to put out work at a higher volume, and so yeah, I relate to the feeling of like this is what drives my creativity. My drugs, my alcohol, my depression is my dysfunction, is the fuel that gives my creativity its uniqueness. I totally relate to that. It's been my experience that that was a bunch of bullshit and not true at all. And I actually, um, that skill set, that desire, that drive, that fuel was in me all along. And the only thing drugs and alcohol were doing was actually like inhibiting my ability to be as good of a creator as I possibly could be. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, my experience has been that I think I'm a better songwriter. I think I'm a better playwright. I think I'm a better creative person as a sober person than I was as a
Right.
you know, active alcoholic.
Wow. That's great, actually. And I think that a lot of people need to hear that, you know, that's, including myself, you know, sometimes like I struggle with these things all the time. You know, I'm good now, but you know, I haven't done this podcast in a while, and there's reasons for that, you know, and I feel a little rusty because it's been so long, but like I feel better, you know. It takes time. Everything takes time. You know, that's definitely what I've learned. So no, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Good question.
Let's talk about your acting a little bit.
Mhm.
When did you start acting?
Yeah, that's probably the earliest thing. I was on stage performing in plays and stuff like as early as like 4 or 5 years old. And so I probably had my first like professional acting gig when I was 10, where I was like getting paid to do it. And like putting money away in a bank account. Uh, but it just feels like it's been a thing that I've always been doing and practicing and trying to get better at. Um, I say this to people, be like I was involved in the process of trying to find an agent, a theatrical agent out in LA where I live recently, and I was sending out like cover letters to different agencies. And one of the things that I would say is like, I've worked professionally as an actor every year for the last 25 years. Like there has not been a year that I was not employed gainfully as an actor. And that's true. And it sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud. I'm like, it's been 25 years where like I've always been making money as an actor,
Mhm.
but it's true. Um, and some years are better than others, obviously. Some years are more productive than others, but it's always been there. It's always been something that I do. It's always like I always make sure I find time in a calendar year to do some acting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you've been in commercials. I've seen, it's funny because I think when I discovered you on TikTok, I was like, where have I seen this guy before? And sometimes the little things just stick in my head. That was the McDonald's commercial
Yeah.
from 2020, I believe.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh my God, yeah, I've seen that. That it's crazy. There was another one too. What was the other commercial where it's like a dating, like speed dating kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that was a commercial too, right? That aired?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely remember that one too. I forgot what it was for, but yeah.
Yep. It's for a solar company.
Solarcom, okay.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
So no, that's cool. It's just like I said, one of those things that just stick in my head. And then you look familiar instantly when I think I'm just seeing you for the first time. Does that make any
Yeah,
sense?
I think I do have one of those faces that's like been around in
Yeah.
enough spaces for long enough that usually what I get when people recognize me in public is just like, where do I know you from?
Right.
Because they assume like we must have met at a party or something like that, but it's most likely that it's just like my face has just like shown up on your TV
Somewhere.
a few times, and so you see me in real life and you're like, I've seen that face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your first on-screen role? Like a
Okay.
TV show or a movie?
Yeah, let's go back. When I was growing up, so I did lots of local commercials as a kid, but we had a few TV shows shooting in Salt Lake. We had Touched by an Angel, which was a show on CBS, and we had Everwood, which was a TV show on the WB that were shooting in town. And I was on Touched by an Angel 3 times, I think, and I had a guest star role on Everwood as well growing up.
Wow.
And those were like my first, on TV things.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So some more recent stuff. You were in The Night Clerk
Mhm.
with Ty Sheridan. John Leguizamo was in that movie as well. You're in a scene with John Leguizamo, actually.
Mhm.
You have an upcoming movie called Riddle of Fire.
Yeah.
I mean, it's done shooting, right? I'm
Yeah,
assuming
it's out next month. It's out March
it's out
20th.
next month. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it streaming or theaters or
Theater.
both?
It's a
Theaters.
theater release, and I imagine it will find its way to a streamer. But this movie premiered at the Cannes Film Festival last year and the Toronto International Film Festival and a handful of several other film festivals. But I think those are like the two like biggest, most prestigious film festivals. And it did wonderfully at both festivals. I got to see it at TIFF in Toronto, and it was awesome. I really, really liked it, and the audience really liked it. And it's always great to be in a movie that you like, because that's not
Yeah.
always the case. And you don't really
Right.
know how a film is going to turn out when you're making it, because you're just like, you're not the one who's going to be editing it. You're not the, like, it's just going to be, there's a whole third leg of the process that you're going to have no involvement in. So it's always nice when you get to see the finished product and you're like, oh, cool, they made a good movie.
Yeah.
I really like Riddle of Fire. I also am in two movies that are coming out this summer called Horizon that Kevin Costner wrote and directed. The first one comes out June 28th and the second one comes out August 16th. So they're part one and part two are coming out like boom, boom, like 6 weeks apart from each other in theaters.
Right.
It's a big, huge event, and I'm excited for that one as well.
That's awesome. I looked into that a little bit today. I saw there was 4 parts. Is that right? Or it's just
There are 4 parts written, and we were supposed to shoot 3 and 4 this year, and it looks like we are kind of in a holding pattern on that. I'm not sure how much I can say.
okay.
All I can say is that parts 1 and 2 are coming out in theaters this summer, and I'm very excited.
That's awesome. That's especially cool that they're coming out like that close together.
Yeah.
A lot of times you get part 1 of a movie and you got to wait 2 years for the next part. So
June 2 came out in like 2021.
Right. Right. Exactly. So that's awesome. And then there's so many people in that movie. I couldn't believe like the cast in that movie.
Oh, Horizon?
Yeah.
Oh, Horizon's
It's fully stacked.
Like when I did the night clerk, there was a day on set where it was me, Ty Sheridan, Helen Hunt, and John Leguizamo and Ana de Armas, and that was like the most star-studded set I'd ever been on.
Right.
Up to that, like it was a weird day on set where I was like, wow, like Helen Hunt's here, dude. Like,
Yeah.
And I didn't know who Ana de Armas was at the time because she was just getting started. But I was like, that's the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, she's gonna be a movie star. And then she won an Oscar like a year later for Knives Out, or she was nominated. But yeah, Horizon. My first day on that movie, my very first day on set, they go, "Hey, we're gonna rehearse your scene now over on set, so we need to, take you over there." And they drive me in an ATV over to set. We're shooting in southern Utah, gorgeous Red Rock Mountains. And I walk into this room, and the scene that I'm in is me, Michael Rooker, Danny Houston, Will Patton, Luke Wilson,
Wow.
and Kevin Costner directing. And I'm like by far the least famous person, like the only not famous person in the room. And we're just rehearsing, and it's only us in the room, and I'm like, what am I doing in this room? Like, this is so crazy.
That's awesome.
Like Michael Rooker's like, Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And Danny Houston's in everything. He's in, Will Patton is in every movie that I watched growing up. And Luke Wilson's Richie Tenenbaum from the and and then we've got Sam Worthington was there too. Sam Worthington's there.
Avatar, right? Yeah. Wow.
On top of that, we got like Sienna Miller on set. We got like it was crazy every day on set for those 2 films.
I can't wait to see this. So this summer it's coming out July, you said?
July.
Awesome. Can't wait for that.
June 28th and August 16th. So
June 20th, August 16th. Gotcha.
in July, part 1 will be in theaters. So
Okay. Very cool. I can't wait for that. I've seen a clip of your fight scene in a movie called Alien Country, but I have not heard anything else as far as when this is coming out or when we can see this one. Do you have any idea?
I still don't have a lot of information.
Okay.
The film has been finished for a while now. This is just the struggle of independent filmmaking that was done completely outside of any kind of studio system. They raised the money to shoot that movie completely independently. And that's just like, this is why independent filmmaking is so difficult. Is like they were able to raise enough money to get their movie shot. But then the post-production process has just been very difficult for them to find a distributor, to find someone who's willing to like buy it and put it out and get it to people. So it's just sort of like, and I'm really good friends with the people who made it, and I have a lot of respect for them, but they've just been, I feel so bad. They've just like had this complete movie sitting on, on a hard drive for a few years now. And they're trying everything they can to get like grassroots attention on the film and stuff like that. But we did have a lot of fun on that shoot. That's another one that we got to shoot in the desert in southern Utah, really beautiful locations and a lot of cool fun action sequences.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see that whenever it makes it And it's crazy because, you know, you see so much crap all the time. Like just on the streaming services, just terrible movies, terrible. Like, how did they? I asked myself, how did this get passed? How did this get made? How did you know? And listen, I'm not saying, you know, everyone has their. It's somebody's art, right? I'm not putting down anybody's art, but some of it's just intentional crap. You know, it is, but it makes it. So
Well,
I
that's
hope.
where I go back to my feelings on the movie Argylle. Is I'm like, hey, there's intentional crap where like there's a certain market for something that it's like, hey, this isn't going to be great, but we know that if we make this movie for like $250,000 and it's a really low budget, like bad sci-fi action movie, there is a crowd that loves like bad for the sake of being bad action movies, and we can make our money back on this. With the VOD market, we can make a couple $1 million and make a profit on this $250,000 price tag. And we can intentionally, we don't have to try to make something good. With a $200 million movie funded by Apple and released by Universal with that star-studded of a cast,
Yeah.
it's insane to me that screenplay traded as many hands as it must have traded, and everyone said, yes, this is the screenplay that you should shoot,
Right.
film. And like that's crazy to me, you know?
It is. It really is. No, absolutely. All right. I've been keeping you here a long time. We're gonna wrap it up with some fun questions. These are just random, but what are you listening to right now? Like, what's your go-to?
I'll tell you,
Nah.
and this will help support smaller artists and stuff.
Awesome.
So I've been watching a lot of Yellowstone lately because I figured I should watch my boss's TV show.
Yes.
Well, I should watch his TV show, and I actually really like it. I like the show more than I thought I was going to, but there's all this like country music in the soundtrack. Of course there is, but like they had like some Jason Isbell songs on there. And I was like, I'm surprised that they're using Jason Isbell because he's
Yeah.
like pretty, like he's a pretty left-leaning country singer, and those are few and far between.
Right.
And made me remember that there's this like independent artist that I used to listen to all the time named Matt Harlan, who I played a show with once in Ogden, Utah, like years and years and years ago. And he was just on tour coming through, and we played at this like little cafe, and I opened for him, and I was like blown away by what a good songwriter he is. And so I remembered, I was like, oh yeah, Matt Harlan. And I was like, I wonder if he has any new albums. So I looked him up on Spotify, and I've been listening to all of Matt Harlan's like latest music, and he's still just as good as I remember him being.
Yeah.
HARLAN, if anyone wants to check him out.
LAN.
Matt Harlan, if you want to hear some like good, I like country music that isn't just like pop country that's like,
Yeah.
Hey, sweet tea and pecan pie, pickup trucks and ripped jeans. Like it's just like saying catchphrases to appeal
Right.
to conservative white America. But
Right.
country songs that are actually talking about like a real human experience, because
Yeah.
I think that the format of a country song really lends itself very well to like great storytelling. And if you can use that format to tell a really engaging human story, I'm all ears. And I'm like, I find it to be very like emotionally affecting. And Matt Harlan's great. So I've been listening to Matt Harlan songs lately.
I'm definitely going to check it out myself because I've gotten into country a lot more lately. And like you said, yeah, not the back road, dirt road stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of the music that I like is derived from country. It's got elements of it in there. You know what I mean? So it's kind of the roots of what I really like this kind of downtrodden, kind of sad music. And there's just so much out there. I don't even know where to start. So I will definitely check this out. And Yellowstone, I've never seen an episode of it. Well, I watched the first episode. I couldn't get into it. I don't know if it was my thing, but you're telling me, everyone tells me it's great.
There's a lot of things that I like about it. I mean, I had to learn how to ride horses for those movies that are coming out this summer.
Okay.
So, and I got like really close with like a lot of like wranglers and horse people who like are professional horse trainers and horse riders. And I got into that, like that there's a real culture there. Like there's a real like kind of person there that I got to know more about and appreciate more. And so I'm sort of digging that, like watching Yellowstone and being like, there's not a lot of shows that really get like these people as accurately as this show gets these people.
Right.
And And also like the show, the first 3 or 4 seasons of the show were shot in Utah. And so every single episode of the show, I know some actor that's playing like a guest part on it. Like I always have friends that are like guest starring. And so it's just
Yeah.
fun for me to watch and be like, my friends are just like in every episode. And then now it's really surreal and weird that like I have this relationship with the head guy.
The man. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's weird to
Wow.
watch the show and be like, I've had like one-on-one personal
Yeah.
dinners with them where we
Yeah.
like, yeah.
That's great. How is Kevin? I mean, he seems like he's pretty down to earth.
He's my favorite celebrity I've ever known.
Wow.
You know, he
Wow.
is he's just got a heart of gold, and he goes out of his way to give people time and to make people feel seen and special when he doesn't need to do that. He's a celebrity that is like the most famous person in a room full of famous people. It's a really interesting thing to like
Wow.
be around him and be like, in a room full of famous people, he's still the one that's like the guy that everyone wants to talk to. And he knows it and he finds time to talk to everyone, to like
Yeah.
give everyone FaceTime and like make sure that he is going around and like being personable and like he's just a really cool guy. I
Yeah.
like him a lot.
That's so cool. It's good. I love hearing things like that because sometimes you hear things about people you love and you're like, that you ruined it a little bit, man. Sorry, that sucks. Like Chevy Chase, for instance.
Sure.
And I can say that because I actually met him.
Yeah.
Well, then not really, but I live on Long Island and out in, I don't know if you're familiar with Long Island, but Montauk Point.
Strong Island.
Yeah, Strong Island. There you go.
Island. Yeah.
He was leaving some restaurant and my dad, this was years ago, but my dad was like, hey, it's Chevy Chase. And he was like, fucking asshole, you know? So like that just ruins it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I've heard nothing but bad things, you know, I've never heard a good thing. But no, it's good to hear when, you know, they're better sometimes than they even seem.
Yeah, and it's like maybe there's somebody out there who had a situation with Kevin Costner like that, where they saw him at a restaurant, and he was like short with them or something.
People have bad days. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. My experience with him is like we had every day on set, we had like 200 extras. You know, we had a background unit that was massive because the world that we were creating was very big. And he would like make time to go and talk with the background, like go and talk with extra every day. And he would talk to them about like what we're shooting that day and like what their part in the story is that day. And I'd be like, I've never seen any director do this, like spend this much time with background, and let alone a director of this stature who's this well known. And he's like making personal time with these people. He's like making jokes with them and like, you know, like making sure that, I mean, it's just really, really impressive. I have a hard time imagining that he would be intentionally rude or dismissive to someone just based off of what my observation was of him over the, you know, I worked with him for like 4 total months and every day. And all I ever saw was a guy who like really goes out of his way to be, you know, kind and welcoming.
Yeah.
So.
It's awesome. It's so cool to hear that, you know, like I think about that a lot. I'm like some celebrities you hear about them all the time. Like you hear about Justin Bieber almost every day, right? But some of them you never hear about ever. And you're just like, they just must be like cool, you know?
Yeah.
Like if no news is good news sometimes.
Yeah, usually like not in the news a lot.
Right. Exactly. Maybe we already answered this, but last show you've been binge watched.
It's probably
Yellowstone. Okay.
Through Yellowstone, like
nice. Now you watching the prequels and the whatever. There's 2 prequels, right?
Yeah, not there yet.
No, okay.
Several times.
Yeah, okay.
Not there yet. So.
All right. So actually, this following question is regarding Microwave Gate back in 2022. Okay. You remember this?
Was this one? I was talking about microwave.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was talking about not knowing
the settings.
Yeah, settings. Yeah.
They always say this: cook on high. I don't know about you, but I've never had a microwave that had different settings, like low, medium, and high for temperature. It's just You type in 3 minutes and you hit go and it goes. Why do they think that microwaves have settings for... Does your microwave have a high setting and a low and a medium setting? All right, so here's where we're at on microwave gate. I am aware now that many of you apparently live with microwaves that actually have buttons on them that say high, medium, low. I don't think I've ever had a microwave in my entire life that has those buttons. But then many of you just have microwaves that have what mine has, which is a power button, that you push the power button and you can manually change the power setting on your microwave. So I'm aware of that now. And I'll say this. I've gone 34 years without ever adjusting the power setting on a microwave. And I think I'm going to go ahead and go the rest of the distance without ever adjusting the power setting. I think I'm good. So shut up.
Right. So have you since changed your power settings or just keeping it the way it was?
I have attempted to a few times and I panicked because I couldn't tell. I didn't like it. I just was like, nope, I don't like it. I don't like trying to adjust my settings and microwave on different settings. I just keep it on high because that's like, to me, I'm like, that's the default setting. And I will just microwave it. I do my oven the same way. Like when something is like, heat this up in the oven at 250 degrees, I'm like, for 30 minutes, I'm like, or I'll just keep it at 400 always and just do it. I'll just check on it periodically. And when it looks done, I'll take it out.
That's it.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
No, so I've never seen anything that says cook at medium power or low power.
Yeah.
Everything says high power. So
Yeah.
do we really need the different settings?
I was so surprised at how many people were like, no. Like there are several things that you should cook on a lower power setting for longer. And I was like, well, I won't. Like my whole life, I've been microwaving everything on high with no issues.
Yeah.
And I'm going to continue just doing that.
That's it. Yeah. Did you ever see a microwave that has a chaos mode setting? It's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Whoa.
We've spoken about it. I've had it on this show a few times. I actually named a series chaos mode with one guy who we always discuss this specific thing. Basically what it is it's just defrost food like in bursts, like short, powerful bursts. I don't know. It's very strange.
Wow.
Yeah. But like, I don't even know if I had that microwave, would I ever push that button? I don't think I would.
I don't think I would ever push it. I don't think I would ever put my food in the microwave. And
No.
It's chaos.
Yeah. And I mean, it's already radiation. You know what I mean? It just doesn't, doesn't add up. There's another funny thing that's on boxes, frozen boxes. It says cook before eating. Have you seen that one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who is that for?
Somebody.
I guess someone ate the mints, right? In the shoebox. They thought they were mints, silica gel. So I guess it's for that person. That's just crazy. All right, moving on from microwaves. Best documentary you've seen.
Oh God, best documentary.
Maybe recently or maybe not of all time.
You know what I just started watching that's blowing my mind is I'm watching Couples Therapy on Showtime. And you could call this a reality TV series, but I don't think it's reality TV. Reality TV is such a specific genre of TV. Like it's such a like specific kind of TV show. And I think this is documentary television. Like that's what this is. It's a documentary about, and all it is just a documentary crew following real couples who are in couples therapy. And it just goes to their couples counseling sessions with them, and the cameras sit in the room with them, and you just get to be in the room of their couples therapy sessions. And sometimes the cameras will follow them home and just kind of show how they behave around home. Most of the show isn't, when the cameras are at their homes, they're not talking. It's just sort of showing their behavior at home. It's an incredibly well-made show. It's very like tasteful and like artfully made, but also it's just fascinating to be able to witness the therapeutic process removed, being able to be like an outsider watching people struggle with problems in their relationships that you're like, oh, I've had that problem before.
Yeah.
or like, and then being able to be on the outside of it.
Right.
I feel like I'm getting more out of it as an audience member than the people are.
Yeah.
It's too personal for them to like hear the stuff
Right.
that they need to hear, and I'm sitting there going like, "Oh, I know exactly what's happening here," and then I can
Yeah.
relate it myself. And yeah, it's a fantastic show.
That's on Showtime.
Showtime. Yeah, and you can find that on like Paramount Plus or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I gotta check that out. Oh, the reason I even asked that question is because I like to hear what other people watching. Like I love documentaries, and I've seen a great deal of them, but sometimes there's one I've never heard of, and there's one of them. So I will check
I
that out.
love I love a good docu-series on like a
Yeah.
cult, like
Oh yeah. Did you see that one on HBO? With the mother, I forget. That was great.
Oh yeah, I did a whole episode on my podcast about it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
wild. Boy, what a wild ride.
Yeah, that was a good one. All right, final question. If you could only listen to 5 albums for the rest of your life, what would they be?
Okay, give me a second. I need to look up the answers that I sent you.
Yeah. I know the answers already, but yeah.
Yeah, let's look at what I said because I think I liked my answers. First of all, it's a very hard question because
It is. It's so hard.
Yeah, it's like asking me my favorite movie or something. This is what I said, and I think I can live with these. 5 albums for the rest of my life. One is Sam's Town by the Killers. I think
Awesome.
a lot of Killers fans would say Hot Fuss. I think Hot Fuss is like one of the best debut indie rock albums of all time.
Yeah.
It's such an impressive debut album. And I love Hot Fuss, but I think that for my money, if I could only listen to one album by the Killers for the rest of my life, it would be Sam's Town, which
Yeah.
is the follow-up album. It's their sophomore album, and I think that Sam's Town is such an amazing complete vision from start to finish. And
Yes.
I like the overall vibe of Sam's Town just a little bit more than Hot Fuss.
Yeah, I agree.
One of my favorite bands. 2, I said Figure Eight by Elliott Smith. A lot of Elliott aficionados would say this is not the album to choose because the more pure albums are albums like XO or Needle in the Hay or Roman Candle, or Needle in the Hay is on the self-titled album, Elliott Smith. Because those albums feel more like authentic to him because he recorded them by himself, like in his basement with just like a multi-track tape recorder, and they feel more that more textured. And Figure Eight is like the most studio produced Elliott Smith album.
Mhm.
But that's kind of what I like about it, is it's like this is like the bold vision of what Elliott Smith's music could be.
Yeah.
Like it's everything that it's like, okay, I love those other albums. I love Roman Candle and XO and all those things. But Figure Eight for me is like when you really like plug in a musician and songwriter as talented as Elliott Smith into like a let's give it all the bells and whistles and studio production.
Yeah.
I love how good it sounds. And
absolutely.
Beginning to end, it's such a like pleasant ride. And so I would take Figure Eight.
Yeah, from a Basement on the Hill is one of my favorites, and that's kind of in that, that vein. It's a bit more produced than
and it's a
the older
devastating
ones.
album too, because
It's
his final album, and there's
Yeah.
a lot in there that sounds like a suicide note. Like it really sounds like there's
Yeah.
a song, A Fond Farewell to a Friend, or like a Memory Lane. Like it really sounds like him saying goodbye in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. And the song From a Basement on a Hill, that album really breaks my heart.
Yeah.
It's really
so good. Yes.
3 is Songs for Silverman by Ben Folds. Ben Folds is a songwriter that's had a massive influence on me as a musician and a songwriter. And again, it's another person like the Killers where I'm like, I could pick so many different albums by Ben Folds or the Ben Folds 5, but this is kind of just like the one that's the most like seminal to me.
Yeah.
I find it to be like the one I go back to the most commonly. And yeah, if I had to listen to one Ben Folds record for the rest of my life, it would be that one. But there's so many good records to choose from.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the covers album. I forget what it's called, but he did like Snoop Dogg.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's such a good album.
He has an album that he wrote with the author Nick Hornby, where he let Nick Hornby write all the lyrics and then he wrote all the music. And that's a really interesting album to listen to because it's like this really cool collaboration. Like it sounds like a Ben Folds album, but like all of the lyrics were written by someone else, and that's really cool.
Yes, I remember that one actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want to only do albums that were like from when I was a teenager and be like such a stereotypical like elder millennial where I'm like, I don't listen to any new music. My favorite like complete start to finish album that I've heard in maybe the last 5 to 6 years is The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess by Chappell Roan. And I just can't say enough good things about Chappell Roan and how impressed I am by her as a songwriter and as like a pop diva. I think that she's absolutely incredible. I hope that she's like the future of pop music. I really love what she's about. And I think that the album is like just start to finish such a fun ride. There's not a single song on it that I don't love. And so yeah, like I would love to have that in the rotation.
Yeah. That was the only one that I did. I'm sorry to cut you off. That was the only one I didn't know of on the list. I looked it up and I listened to it, and it is great, man.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It starts off kind of country, and then all of a sudden, like this, dance beat kicks in. And yeah, it's definitely cool. I never heard of it, and I really dig it. So yeah.
She rips. She's killer, and I'm really excited for where her career is going to go. To hear like her sophomore album and everything, because this debut album is just.
Oh, so that was her first album. That's it.
Yeah,
oh wow. Okay.
So this is like what introducing to the world Chappell Roan.
Yeah.
It's a just like fierce first album to come out with.
Yeah.
And then I had to like honor some indie pop punk roots, and I didn't want to go with anything that was super like, I don't know, predictable, but also this album is just something that was like very integral to me.
Yeah.
And this was my favorite band in high school, a band called The Format from Tempe, Arizona. Yep. And Nate Roos, who was the lead singer and main songwriter for The Format, went on to form the band Fun with what's his face that produces everything.
Wow. I definitely know his name. Bleachers and
yeah.
Wow.
I know his name.
I'm not ending this podcast so we figure out his name.
Andrew something or yeah.
Well, Andrew Dost is in Fun.
Andrew Dost is in Fun, but
I have him on the show.
That's not what we're talking about. Bleachers is
Jack Antonoff.
Jack Antonoff.
There we go.
Yeah. So yeah, but the original project for Nate Roos, who is the lead singer of Fun, was a band called The Format, and their debut album is called Interventions and Lullabies. And The Format, in my mind, never wrote a bad song. They're just one of those bands that every single thing they put out was awesome. But Interventions and Lullabies is like the album that for me was like, that was like my pop punk album in high school. And it's even, I don't know if you would call The Format full on pop punk, but it's like, it's definitely in that era. And I think it was like when pop punk was making the switch to like indie rock. And so it was like an indie rock pop punk album. And I love the blend of sounds that The Format has as a band. And I really liked Fun, and I really liked Bleachers. And Nate Roos isn't really doing anything anymore. He's kind of gone. But Jack Antonoff has become like this mega producer in the music industry. But yeah, those are my 5.
Yeah, those great 5. And yeah, I have Andrew on the show. I had him on like 5 or 6 times actually.
Andrew Dost?
Yeah. Yeah,
cool.
We've become kind of buddies. Austin, thank you so much for doing this, man. We almost hit like Argylle run time here.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you coming on and doing this. And I hope, many great things are coming to you in the future. Best of luck to you on everything. You're a true inspiration, man. And I love watching all your stuff. You're good at everything that you do. And
thank you. That's so nice of you to say.
Hell yeah. And I hope to see more content. Just keep it coming.
I really, really enjoyed this, and I'll come on the show anytime you want.
I would love that. Thank you so much. And thanks for bearing with me. I'm a little rusty. I haven't been doing this for a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know, I stutter on words sometimes and I get all mixed up, but I
Yeah,
get,
this was great. I really enjoyed it.
thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it, Austin. And that's it. We're done.
All right, cool, man.
All right, Austin, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.